Premier Chris Minns is speaking right now.
I appreciate you being with us this morning in Surrey Hills. I'm here with the Commissioner for Police, Karen Webb, the Commissioner for the New South Wales Ambulance Service, Dominic Morgan, and Deputy Commissioner Thurtell to speak about a distressing event in Sydney last night, an investigation into a serious crime that the New South Wales Police are undertaking. The alleged perpetrator is in custody of the New South Wales Police. And of course, I understand coming just days after the criminal activities in Bondi Junction, Sydney and New South Wales is on edge, and there's understandable community anxiety at the moment. However, it is crucially important that the police are able to conduct their inquiries and finish their investigation. In a moment, the New South Wales Police Commissioner will speak about this investigation and her decision at 1:35 a.m. to determine that this was a terrorist act and investigation. That decision was validated by the Minister for Police at 1:44 a.m, with her contacting me at 2 a.m. this morning. This is a major and serious criminal investigation. It is crucial that New South Wales Police are able to devote their resources and intelligence, as well as officers, to the investigation of this crime. I want to make something very, very clear. There is no such thing in Australia in taking the law into your own hands. It doesn't exist. That's for several reasons. Firstly, you will be met by the full force of the law if there's any attempt for tit-for-tat violence in Sydney over the coming days. Secondly, you are diverting police equipment, investigation power, as well as resources away from the investigation of this crime. And lastly, and perhaps most importantly, every religious leader representing communities across Western Sydney has expressly said don't do it, and implored the community to come together to express faith and hope in the New South Wales Police and ensure that we remain united during these difficult days. I can't express that enough. Late last night at 10:30 p.m, I convened a meeting of faith leaders representing major religious organisations across Western Sydney, and their message to their communities was universal and identical, and that is that they deplore violence in all forms, that they have faith in the New South Wales Police to undertake their investigation and their inquiry, that they call for peace amongst all communities in Sydney, and most importantly, that people remain calm during this obviously distressing period. I'm going to hand over to the New South Wales Police Commissioner.
Thanks, Premier. Thank you for being here. Shortly after 7 p.m. last night, police were called to a church in Wakeley in southwest Sydney in relation to reports that a male was stabbing the clergy inside that building. Police responded and arrested a young person, and he was restrained inside that building. Subsequently, as has been mentioned, at 1:35 a.m. this morning, after consideration of all the material, I declared that it was a terrorist incident. Strike Force Patrina has been established to investigate that side of the events last night, and a referral has been made and agreed to by the Joint Counter-Terrorism Investigation Team that we will work jointly with New South Wales Police lead with AFP and other Commonwealth agencies in this investigation. Whilst police were responding to the incident at Wakeley with New South Wales Police Ambulance to provide assistance to those injured, including the offender, people converged on that area and began to turn on police. People used what was available to them in the area, including bricks, concrete, palings, to assault police and throw missiles at police and police equipment and police vehicles. We've had police injured and taken to hospital overnight, and we've had many police vehicles damaged. 20 have been damaged and 10 are unusable. This is unacceptable. Police attended the incident in Wakeley last night to assist that community in response to calls for assistance, and the crowd turned on police. That is unacceptable, and those that were involved in that riot can expect a knock at the door. It might not be today, It might not be tomorrow, but we will find you and we will come and arrest you. That is totally unacceptable. Strike Force Dribs has been established by South West Region Command to investigate the riot and those involved in assaulting police going about their job. The police officers, and of which there were many, acted courageously to protect that community, protect witnesses, victims, and the ambulance officers that were there to do their job. They went there last night to do their job and they were turned on. And they will be prosecuted when they're identified. Strike Force Dribs will be formed to respond to the riot, and additional patrols will be put in place for Sydney to help community harmonisation, because we can't and we don't want this to happen again. This should be an isolated incident, but it will be investigated and those involved can expect to be prosecuted. Thank you. Are there any questions?
Paramedics became directly under threat and were supported by police and had to retreat into the church. The paramedics that serve this community and the police every single day were holed up in that church for 3.5 hours. 6 of our paramedics could not leave that facility for fear of their own safety from the community that they serve. I echo the words of the Police Commissioner. This is outrageous. Our people that do nothing but go to care and help every single day need to know that they've got the support of the community. If they don't have the support of the community, who will come and do these jobs? It is absolutely clear we cannot have these sorts of behaviours. These are the times to come together. The words of some of our staff last night were, "This was terrifying and extremely violent." They particularly wanted me to call out that they believe that the New South Wales police officers put their lives on the line to protect the paramedics. And I call on the community to do the same and support our frontline responders.
Premier, you've said this has been designated a terrorist attack. Can you please just expand on what you mean by that and what's the exact?
Well, the Police Commissioner may speak to that in a moment, but there's obviously clear legislative definitions about an investigation, police powers into that investigation, powers of arrest as well as time in custody. That was a decision made in the early hours of this morning. We believe it's the correct decision under the circumstances, but I'll ask the Police Commissioner to elaborate more.
Can you also just define what constitutes a terrorist attack and what you think he did that crossed the line?
The elements that I considered, I had a teleconference with my team from Counter-Terrorism Command for over an hour this morning to talk through this. The things that influenced my decision to declare this a terrorist incident was the actions of the individual who attended, we will allege, attended that church with a knife, armed with a knife, and stabbed the bishop and priest, and others were also injured. We believe there are elements that are satisfied in terms of religious motivated extremism, and of course the intimidation of the public through that person's acts by attending that church whilst it was being live streamed, intimidating not only the parishioners in attendance but those parishioners who were watching online, and subsequently those people that turned up to the church on the outside and the subsequent riot that happened.
What can you tell us about the attack?
We understand he's about 16 years of age. He is known to police. However, he has not been on any terror watch list.
How long was this attack in process for? Was it premeditated in weeks in advance or?
Well, we will allege that there is a degree of premeditation on the basis that this person has travelled to that location, which is not near his residential address. He has travelled with a knife, and subsequently the bishop and the priest have been stabbed, who are currently in surgery, as I understand it. They are lucky to be alive.
And was he working with anyone else?
We believe at this stage he was acting alone. However, as you can imagine, this is very early on. So at this stage, that is our belief.
Can you take us, sorry, I was just going to say, can you please confirm the weapon? So we're hearing that the knife may have been closed and that he stabbed him with the knife still closed. And then can you also just confirm the rumours about the fingers?
It's really too early to say. There's various stories about the fingers. That's not clear yet, whether it's self-inflicted or through the melee that occurred or some other way. And I understand that it's possibly a flick knife, but yet that is to be confirmed as well.
So just confirming, Commissioner, you don't know yet whether the crowd in their anger have cut off this teenager's fingers or whether his own flick knife has caused that injury.
Of course, it will be really through statements from witnesses and victims that will determine that.
I mean, it's a very important point.
Of course it is. Of course it is.
Yes. So,
Very early to say. The victims are in surgery. The offender has been into surgery this morning. Too early to say. We will provide more information when it's available.
Were his fingers injured before police arrived, before the first police arrived, or did that happen while police were in attendance?
Again, too early to say.
Can I just speak to that, though?
Yeah.
Certainly, I think it's important that we acknowledge Bishop Marmori, who is one of the victims at the moment seeking and getting care in a New South Wales hospital. It's important to note that the injuries are serious and that is the basis of this designation as a terrorist act and a major investigation from New South Wales Police.
But do you know anything, Premier, about how this attacker injured his fingers?
Look, obviously police are working on that investigation. That will form part of the investigation. No one's trying to be coy about this information and presenting it to the public, but it's important that this major investigation is able to get on with the job. We will present information to the public when it's appropriate to release it, but at the moment that's the subject of this investigation from New South Wales Police.
What about the attacker's parents? Have they been cooperating? What have they said about?
I can't speak to that.
I understand that police have communicated with his parents, but I'm not able to talk about what the content of that conversation was, and it will form part of the investigation. As I said, Strike Force Patrina has been established to investigate the terrorism side of this event. Strike Force Dibs has been established to investigate the riot. And they are two distinct matters, and I want to make that point. We are talking about very different matters here and different purposes.
Did parents have any idea where he was last night? Or
We're talking a few hours, so we will update you when there is more information to provide.
On the riot, how many arrests are you going to make at this stage?
As the ambulance commissioner has said, the crowd surged. We understand from 50 to maybe 500. It was very uncontrolled for a period of time. In fact, a couple of hours. Resources from all across Sydney were deployed and called in. People were called in to respond to this, to assist those police on the ground that were calling for help. That's how dynamic it was. That's how confronting it was. And that's how precarious it was for those officers that put themselves on the front line when they went there to assist that community.
Have you heard anything about an
I'll come to
attack?
this person.
And what additional powers does that terror declaration confer to police?
It will, no special powers have been asked at this time. It will be just the investigative powers. However, if there is a need to amend those powers, those powers will be sought from me as the investigation unfolds.
Are police worried about the parcel attacks within the coming days?
Yes, to the point that the Premier made, we are asking for calm and let the police do the job that we do well, and that is protecting our community. We have an investigation. We are working with our community. We are engaging with our communities. This is not the time for retaliation or vigilantism.
Have you heard
had any contact with the social media account of sharing a lot, including press conferences that police are suggesting the attacker had mentioned? Have you been in contact with them about taking that down?
The issue of social media, it's widely used, obviously, and sometimes that's a help for us. It becomes an evidentiary tool. But as I said, it's very early on in this investigation, and if that's it.
It's on the bishop's own
We do interact with social media companies, and that maybe canvassed today.
Have you heard about plans last night from that mob to go and attack a mosque and then consequently 100 people gathering at a nearby mosque to retaliate?
There's been all sorts of things flying around. Police have been patrolling last night, and that's not the experience that officers on patrol in southwest Sydney and other places of Sydney have reported.
Commissioner, just to be crystal clear, there's a quite graphic photo of a man with his fingers cut off. Is that a photo of the assailant's hand? And did that happen last night?
I haven't seen that photo, but given that I understand that the person of interest has injuries to his hand, that is likely the case, but I haven't seen that.
Have you heard any?
Commissioner, you mentioned that you believe this to be a religiously motivated incident. What was his specific motivation, do you believe? What has led you to believe that, apart from the fact that he's attacked a bishop in a church?
I think there's probably versions on social media. It was a live stream sermon, as I understand it. I understand that he made certain comments as he was approaching the bishop. There's been other comments made. Those comments and all that information available to us at 1 o'clock this morning, I took into consideration in making that declaration.
What comments did he make?
Around religion. It was centred around religion.
Do you know anything about him being there or attending that particular church on Friday, a few days earlier?
I'm not aware, and certainly if that's the case, then we'll pursue that as a line of inquiry.
The local member Dialec's calling for more police resources in Western Sydney. Police resources had to come from all over the city last night. Does she have a point?
In these situations, and it's not unusual, a police officer facing that situation, and that's an unusual situation. This doesn't happen in Sydney. A Signal 1 was called by the police who attended and were surrounded. Police from all over Sydney responded, as we would, as I've done in my career. That's what we do to support each other. The welfare and safety of our staff is paramount. We all came together last night from all over Sydney. Our specialist resources were recalled. The Public Order and Riot Squad was recalled. Tactical Operations Unit responded. Pol Air responded. That's what we do. We work together.
Will you be prosecuting those rioters who jumped on police cars?
We will. They can expect a knock on the door. We won't tolerate that. Police officers were doing their job and they were attacked. That's the simplest I can put it. They were attacked. They can expect to be prosecuted.
We heard earlier that this teenager was known to police but wasn't on terror watch list, so to speak. Were they known to police in that capacity, for instance, organised crime links or anything like that?
As I understand it, not organised crime links, but he had come under notice. Not often. He wasn't well known to police, but I think the important thing here is that he wasn't known to us from a terrorism point of view. He was not on any terror watch list. So the issues are different. This is the first time this individual has come to our attention in this manner, and as such, we're treating it very seriously, as you can imagine.
Commissioner, have you made, sorry, just to come back to what I asked earlier, has there been a preliminary assessment on how many arrests may be made as a consequence of the riots afterwards?
There will be a lot of work done, and let me tell you, we will work through it meticulously. For any footage, any evidence of any individual has participated in that riot and thrown missiles at police, injured police officers, and damaged property, damaged the local community, we will be pursuing all those individuals. They can expect a knock on the door.
Can I just say, sorry, Commissioner. Can I just say it's very important right now that people not respond to rumour on social media or even in this media conference today. New South Wales Police will provide information to the public based on their investigation, and rumours can spread in the community and start disharmony or a breach to the public order very quickly. So wait for official communication from New South Wales Police. In relation to the police's actions last night, it should be understood that in a very short space of time, 2 strike forces were stood up. One to investigate this terrorist act, a second to investigate the near riot or riotous activities outside the church last evening. At the same time, New South Wales Police deployed resources to Western Sydney. At the same time, they deployed resources to other religious organisations and structures throughout Western Sydney in order to avoid retaliation or tit-for-tat violence. Now that is very important. That happened in a short space of time. Within a couple of hours, literally hundreds, if not 1,000 police were on the ground keeping the community safe. The message from New South Wales Police and the government this morning is very clear. Remain calm. Let the police do their job. Every major religious community leader representing the communities of Western Sydney have made an identical plea to the residents of this city, and that is, let the police do their job. They've deplored violence, and no one is asking for retribution or to take the law into their own hands. And it's my great plea to everybody in Sydney to heed those calls from the New South Wales Police, the government and major religious leaders, Islamic leaders, Christian leaders, united last night with one simple message: remain calm and please follow police directions.
Are those police officers still deployed at all of those religious institutions that you met today?
I can't speak to that specifically, but the New South Wales Police Commissioner has made it clear, and I have spoken to the local Mayor, Frank Carbone, about increased police resources for what is obviously a combustible situation. But our hope is that it doesn't come to that, and that common sense prevails, the community remains calm, and we let police get on with the job of investigating a major terrorism investigation.
Commissioner, can I just on Joel Couchy? There's reports around that he was at the Westfield in Parramatta and Penrith in the days leading up to the attack. Can you confirm if those reports are true? And if so, is there was it a thought he might have attacked another Westfield?
I've heard those reports myself, and we will be looking at all of those angles. I made it clear from the beginning that we will be going back in this fellow's movements and his history for days, weeks, and even into his childhood to get a better understanding of what he was thinking. I've made it also clear we may not ever get an answer, but we will get a picture of his movements and what he'd been doing in and around New South Wales and in Sydney in particular, and that will all be part of the investigation to help to understand motive.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Just one more on the...
There you go. The New South Wales Police Commissioner and the New South Wales Premier announcing big news there that attack on a beloved bishop in Western Sydney overnight is being treated as a terror attack, allegedly by a person at the age of about 16 who was known to police, not on a terror watch list, came from out of area, made comments to that bishop as they approached. A degree of premeditation, they say, was involved in that. That was one of the reasons why they are satisfied it is being investigated as a terror attack. Religious motivated extremism, they are calling it.
There are two issues here, and we heard that from the Police Commissioner saying that there are two task forces that will investigate serious criminal activity. One of those, of course, was the riotous activity after the fact, after that attack in the church. And we know that a number of police officers were injured, 20 cars were damaged, 10 of those are unusable now. So you can just imagine the types of projectiles that were being used. Bricks, concrete, palings. One of the palings apparently was used against the police. The Premier said this about those riots: there is no such thing as taking justice into your own hands. It doesn't exist in Australia. You'll feel the full force of the law if that is the case. And the issue with it, he said, directing police away from the criminal act itself and from the safety of the community that you live.
Yeah, it was really horrifying and quite emotional watching the police commissioner. She was very angry as she explained what had happened there overnight. Let's go to Fairfield Mayor Frank Carbone. What's your reaction after seeing those scenes overnight and hearing that police and paramedics were held up in that church actually calling for help?
Well, the police and paramedics shouldn't be held up, and I know there's a lot of emotions. The police and paramedics were only trying to help those that were injured. They were trying to control the situation, and I understand that many people came to the church because they had family and friends inside, and they were concerned, and that there's a lot of emotions. But we can't allow people to take the law into their own hands, and definitely not attack police in such a way. The police are our heroes. They put their lives on the line to protect us and to actually look after those that were injured inside. We had a bishop that was injured, obviously being attacked, and to those parishioners that also risked their lives to protect the bishop and to protect Father Isaac as well. We need to remember them, and so definitely I'm asking all the community to be calm. I know there's a lot of emotions after Bondi, of course. This has stirred up a lot of the community, no matter where people live across Sydney, and to have this happen here last night is not right. It's a terror attack against their faith. And churches are all about people going to church, attending services. They actually are a refuge. They're a place where people go and pray. They're a place of peace, and it shouldn't happen in a shopping centre, and it shouldn't happen in a church.
I think that's why these things have hit so hard, Frank. The Premier labelled this a combustible situation in your area at the moment. He's offered you increased resources. Will you take them?
Well, of course we take them. It's the Premier that looks after policing, but I appreciate the phone call that he made and reassured me and our community that the resources will be made available to keep our community safe. Our number one priority is to make sure our community is safe, so I'm calling for everybody just to calm down, let the police do their work. It's important that we all work together, that we unite. We are a very resilient community here in Fairfield. It was unfortunate scenes that we seen last night for the reaction, and that was purely emotions. Emotions after what happened in Bondi, emotions because people had family members in there, and we don't condone those actions. Our thoughts also go out to the police that actually got injured as well. But let's not forget this. This is unheralded. Somebody to go into a place of worship and to actually do what they done. It's obviously hurt a lot of people, and it's a terrible, terrible act. And we need to condemn the act in the first place as well.
Yeah, Frank,
we shouldn't forget about what actually caused this, and that was the act.
Exactly, and look, that has been condemned by the Premier and the Police Commissioner in no uncertain terms there, and we understand the emotions, and right across Sydney after the horrific attack on the weekend, and this was horrific overnight. But then we've got, as the Police Commissioner has just stood there and explained this morning, police set upon with bricks and concrete and palings, assaulted as they tried to help. And as she said, they went there last night to do their job and they were turned on. Frank, at what point does that happen?
Well, let's not forget this was caused by a terrorist attack by the Premier's and the Commissioner's own words. So people were very emotional. I mean, people were already on tenterhooks about what happened in Bondi. So people have seen that what happened in Bondi, many people died. So many people were concerned about the people inside. And that's no excuse. I'm asking the community to please calm down, let the police do their job. Let's not interfere with the police. They're trying to help everybody. And we can't allow people to take the law into their own hands. And of course, we condemn people that damage people's property, and many people came from all over Sydney last night. It wasn't just people in Fairfield. It's a Christian church, and people came because there was a lot said on social media, and they felt they had to be there to defend and to help others. They come to the aid, but we cannot allow people to treat police the way they treated and our ambulance personnel, and that's just not on. And let's let the police get on with it, and let's understand that the priority right now, whilst the police will investigate all of that, and I welcome that, is the priority now is to make sure that terrorism attacks don't happen, not in Fairfield, not in Bondi, and nowhere else. Because to have a 15-year-old teenager do this, so many people would say, well, why? Why did this happen? It just does not make any sense, and all we want is the police to try and stop these attacks from happening, and I'm sure that they will work very hard to do so.
Fairfield Mayor Frank Carbone, thanks for joining us. Can I just ask you this? The Police Commissioner has said that those identified in these riots will be prosecuted. Do you think people should come forward if they were involved in those riots last night?
Well, I want two things to happen. First and foremost, I don't want anyone else to be attacked from a knife, and the priority should be identifying if the police, Chris Minns, the Premier, said this was terrorism. I want to make sure that this does not happen again, not in Bondi, not in Fairfield, and nowhere else, anywhere in Australia. We can't allow this to happen as Australians. It's not the way of life that we want in our community. And of course, if people have broken the law, I'll let the police deal with that matter, and we can't have people throwing objects at the police, and the police know the law better than anybody else, and I'm sure that they will act. And I also want to mention the residents that actually live near that area. It must have been horrifying for those residents as well. So I just want everybody in Fairfield just to calm down, and we need the police to stop these attacks and stop them now, and I'm sure they will do their best.
Yeah, we reiterate your calls for calm and understanding. Frank Carbone, thanks for joining us.